Whether you're preparing for sleep, seeking a moment of calm during a hectic day, or simply looking to relax, welcome to Eerie Embers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, also share some stories from your part of the world. Hit the lights, get comfy, and let's begin the journey. It started with my dog. We just moved into a rental cabin deep in the woods, one of those off-the-grid places with no Wi-Fi and barely any cell reception. The kind of place you tell yourself is peaceful until you hear the forest settle at night and start questioning every snap of a twig. The dog, Milo, was always scratching at the same spot behind the cabin. At first, I thought it was just a scent trail or some old animal den. But it wasn't a one-time thing. Every morning, like clockwork, he'd sprint to that patch of ground and start digging. No barking, just focused. After 3 days of this, I caved. Curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed a shovel and started digging where Milo had been clawing. The soil was soft, too soft for land that hadn't been touched in years. About 2 feet down, the smell hit me. Damp earth, something sour underneath. Then the shovel hit something hard. I dropped to my knees and pulled it out with my hands. A shoe. Tiny. Caked in mud, still laced. My stomach turned. Then more. A scrap of fabric. A toy car. A bracelet with beads that spelled out Lily. That's when I saw the bones. Small, fragile human. I froze. My brain didn't want to catch up with what my eyes were seeing. Milo sat beside me, silent now, staring at the pit like he'd known all along. I covered it back up. Fast. I didn't call the cops. I don't know why. I think I was afraid they'd think I did it. That I'd lose everything trying to explain how I found a child's remains in the woods behind my temporary cabin. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept hearing things. Rustling. Light taps on the back door. Once I swore I heard a faint voice outside. A whisper. You shouldn't have touched it. I blamed the wind, the creaks of the cabin, my own guilt. But then Milo started acting strange. He wouldn't go near the back door anymore. He'd just stare at it, whine low in his throat. One night, I woke up to find him hiding under the bed, trembling, his fur soaked with sweat. Then things started going missing. My keys, a sock, my watch. Little things, one by one. I found them outside, neatly placed in a line next to the filled-in pit, like offerings or trade. Last night, I found the bracelet again, the one that said Lily. I'd thrown it deep into the woods the day I reburied the remains. But there it was, on my pillow, waiting. I've spent most of my life hiking. I grew up near the mountains, and the woods always felt more like home than the city ever did. I know the sounds of the forest, the way birds go quiet when a predator's nearby, the way leaves crunch under deer hooves. I know what normal feels like out there. But what I saw last fall didn't feel normal. It felt wrong. I was hiking alone on a trail I'd done 100 times. Late afternoon, golden light breaking through the trees. The air was cold, but not biting. I just crossed a stream when I saw it. A deer, standing dead still in a clearing about 30 feet off the trail. It didn't move when I stepped closer, didn't twitch an ear or flick its tail or react to me in any way. That was strange, sure, but not impossible. Sometimes they freeze when they're unsure, but this one was staring at me, not glancing. Staring, eyes locked, unblinking. I took a few more steps, slow and careful, just to get a better look. The thing was completely still, too still. I don't think it was even breathing. Its mouth hung slightly open like it had been caught mid-gasp, but there was no movement, no steam from its nostrils in the cold. Something about its eyes bothered me. Deer don't look directly into your eyes like that. Not for that long. Not like that. I reached for my phone to take a picture. I thought maybe I could zoom in, see what was going on. But when I looked up from my screen, there were more. At least 6 more deer now in the clearing. All perfectly still. All staring at me, silent. None of them had been there a second ago. I hadn't heard a sound, not a twig snap, not a rustle. It was like they'd just appeared. That's when I noticed something else. They were all the same size, same build, same exact proportions. No variation. I took a step back. My foot snapped a branch. All 7 heads tilted toward me in perfect unison, like they were synced. I don't know why, but I ran. Dropped my phone somewhere along the way and just ran. I didn't look back until I reached the parking lot. My lungs were burning, my hands shaking. I never told anyone what happened. Figured it had to be some weird hallucination. Maybe I was overtired or had altitude sickness. That's what I told myself until last week. I was scrolling online and found a post from another hiker. Different state, different trail. But the photo, it stopped me cold. It was a deer in a clearing, staring directly into the camera. Eyes wide, mouth slightly open, and in the background, more deer. Same pose, same stillness, same eyes. I like camping alone, always have. People say it's dangerous, but I've found solitude out in the wilderness to be more calming than threatening. The forest doesn't lie to you. You hear what you hear. You see what you see. No small talk. No pretending. That's what I used to believe. I set up camp in a remote patch of forest I hadn't explored before, roughly 2 hours from the nearest trailhead, uphill most of the way. It was untouched, quiet, beautifully isolated. No cell service, no noise. Just me, the trees, and a sky full of stars. That first night was uneventful, except for one thing. I kept hearing movement. Not around me, but above me. Every so often, I'd hear a soft rustling in the trees. Not wind, not birds. Something heavy shifting branches. But every time I turned on my flashlight and looked up, there was nothing. Just the thick canopy. Black leaves. Maybe a squirrel, I told myself. A raccoon. Something small and harmless. But I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it was watching me. The second night, it got worse. I was lying in my tent around midnight when I heard it again, directly overhead. Leaves brushing together, branches creaking. Then a low, stretching sound, like something crawling through the trees. I unzipped the tent slowly and pointed my flashlight up. Still nothing. But then I noticed something strange. The beam of my flashlight didn't seem to reach very far. The light just sort of stopped halfway up, swallowed by the darkness. That's when I saw it. Not clearly, just a shape. A long, pale form stretched along a thick branch, still as death. I couldn't make out details, but it was too big for a bird, too long for a cat. It was human-shaped, but all wrong. Limbs bent in the wrong places. Head cocked sideways, like it was listening. I backed into the tent and zipped it shut, like that was going to protect me. I didn't sleep. I just laid there, heart racing, listening to it shift above me every so often. At some point, I must have dozed off because I woke up to silence. It was already daylight. I immediately packed up camp. Didn't even eat, just shoved everything into my bag and started hiking back down the trail. About half a mile in, I noticed something odd. Claw marks in the trees, deep gouges in the bark, 6 or 7 feet off the ground, spaced like whatever made them had been climbing sideways. Following the tree line, following me. I didn't stop moving after that. Barely drank water. Made it back to my car just before dark and sped the hell out of there. But here's the part that keeps me up now. When I checked the photos on my camera that night, just to prove to myself it was real, I found a picture I didn't take. A photo of my tent, shot from above, like something was in the trees, watching me sleep. I rented a remote cabin for the weekend, something I do a couple of times a year when I need to disconnect. No phone reception, no internet, no neighbors. Just a wood stove, some books, and trees for miles in every direction. It was the kind of silence you forget exists. The first night was uneventful. I lit a fire, made some tea, and listened to the wind. There was a small porch out front with a clear view of the forest, so I bundled up and sat outside for a while. The stars were insane out there. No light pollution at all. It was peaceful. Then came the second night. It was colder, and there was a bit of a mist hanging in the trees. I remember sitting on the porch again around 10 p.m., just watching the fog roll in when I noticed the lights. At first, I assumed they were flashlights. Small, faint, bluish-white glows, maybe 50 yards out between the trees. I figured maybe some late-night hikers or other cabins I wasn't aware of. But that didn't add up. The area was supposed to be completely isolated, and the lights didn't move like flashlights. They didn't sway, nor did they bounce. They floated smoothly and slowly. I stood up, trying to get a better view. The lights seemed to shift, staying just behind the tree line, like they were aware I was watching. There were 3 of them at first, then 2 more appeared. No sound, no footsteps, just these cold little orbs. I thought about calling someone, but my phone was still useless. I had a flare gun in the emergency kit, but that felt like overkill. They weren't doing anything threatening, they were just there watching. Eventually, they dimmed and disappeared. I went inside, locked the door, and told myself it was a trick of the fog. Maybe distant lights reflecting off moisture in the air. Something explainable. But I barely slept. Around 2:15 a.m., I woke up to light leaking in through the slats of the blinds. I thought it was the moon at first, but when I peeked outside, the lights were back, but closer now, right on the edge of the clearing. There were 6 of them this time, floating perfectly still, just watching the cabin. I turned off every light, crouched by the window, and waited. They didn't come closer. They didn't move. I watched them for nearly half an hour, heart pounding, until they faded into the darkness like mist, burning off in the sun. When daylight came, I went outside to check for footprints. Nothing. No tire tracks. No disturbed leaves. Just silence. But here's the part that really got to me. In the trees where the lights had been, the bark was scorched. Tiny, perfect circles burned into the trunks, like they had been hovering there. I left that morning. Didn't finish my trip. I still don't know what I saw. Drones, maybe. Some weird tech. Ball lightning. But I haven't been back since. I still don't know how we found it. It was supposed to be a weekend hiking trip. Me, Jess, and my brother Nate. We've done these trips for years. Same state park, same trailheads. We knew the place like the back of our hands. But that Saturday, we decided to try something new. Nate found this old, unmarked trail that branched off the main one. Overgrown, barely visible, but walkable. He swore it used to be a logging road or something. It wasn't on any of our maps, not even the offline GPS ones Jess swore by. Of course, we followed it. We thought we were being adventurous. The path twisted deeper into the forest, so deep the canopy choked out the sky. Time got weird. Phones lost signal. We stopped talking as much. It got quiet. Too quiet. That's when we saw it. A village. Just there, nestled in a low valley. Maybe 15 or 20 houses, all wooden, old-fashioned. Smoke rising from a few chimneys. No roads, no cars, like something out of the 1800s. We were shocked. There were no signs, no fences, just people. And they were friendly, too friendly. An old woman approached us first, wore a dress like a prairie settler, said we were blessed to find the hollow, invited us to rest, offered food. Everyone smiled too wide. Their eyes lingered too long. But we were tired, hungry, curious. So we stayed. That night, they gave us a room in one of the houses. No locks, just candlelight. Everything smelled like lavender and dust. Nate joked it was like staying in colonial Williamsburg. Jess didn't laugh. In the middle of the night, I woke up to footsteps. Slow, soft, just outside the room. I peeked through the cracked door. A man was just standing there, facing the wall, not moving, just standing. I didn't sleep after that. In the morning, we decided to leave. That's when it got worse. Trail we came from. Gone, trees, thick brush. No sign anyone had ever walked through. We tried other directions. North, south, didn't matter. Every path curved back to the village. Hours of walking, and we were back at the same wooden fence. Every time, the villagers pretended nothing was wrong, just smiled, said we should stay and rest a little longer, said outsiders always panic at first. Jess started to cry. Nate started shouting. I just stared at one of the villagers, an old man chopping wood. He hadn't blinked once since we'd come back. Just smiled. That night, the room was locked from the outside. We're still here, or something that looks like us is, because I saw something last night. Out in the woods, 3 figures, hunched, crawling. Pale, skin stretched too thin. They were wearing our clothes. They were us, watching, and the villagers. They just watched them crawl back into the woods without saying a word. I think the hollow doesn't want visitors. I think it wants replacements. The cabin looked exactly like the listing said. Rustic, isolated, and a little worn around the edges, but charming. It was tucked into the woods in western Oregon, down a long gravel road with no signs and no neighbors for miles. The kind of place you go when you need to disappear for a while. I booked it for 5 nights. A solo break from everything. Work, people, and noise. Just me, a few books, and a stack of firewood. It was perfect. The first 2 days were peaceful. I cooked simple meals, read on the porch, listened to the wind in the trees. There was a weird old guest book on the coffee table. A thick, leather-bound thing with yellowed pages. At first, I thought it was just a prop, but it was full of actual handwritten notes from past guests. Some went back 20 years. Most were what you'd expect. Great place to unplug. Cozy, but bring extra blankets. We'll be back next fall. But one stood out. It was dated 3 years ago. The handwriting was tight and anxious looking. Just one short entry. Don't stay longer than 3 nights. That's when it starts noticing you. That was it. No name, no smiley face, just that. At first, I thought it was a joke. Someone trying to be creepy or clever. But the more I thought about it, the more it got under my skin. I'd already stayed 2 nights. That 3rd night, something changed. It started with small things. The cabin felt colder, even with the fire going. I kept hearing soft thuds from the walls, like shifting wood or footsteps in another room. Once I heard a floorboard creak in the hallway, but when I checked, there was nothing. I didn't sleep well. I kept waking up, feeling like someone was standing at the foot of the bed. But every time I turned on the light, the room was empty. By morning, I was convinced I was just psyching myself out. I laughed it off, told myself I was being ridiculous, probably just too much coffee and too little social contact. But that fourth night, the one the note warned about, something woke me up. I didn't hear anything at first, just felt was wrong, like the air had shifted. The room felt heavier. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when I realized the cabin was now completely silent. No wind, no trees creaking, not even bugs. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not loud. Just soft, slow steps on the wooden floor, starting from the front door, moving through the living room and into the kitchen. Then they stopped. I held my breath, waited. I told myself to get up, check it out. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, not with fear exactly, but something like it. Like whatever was out, there was waiting for me to come look. I stayed like that for what felt like hours. Finally, I must have fallen asleep out of pure exhaustion. When I woke up, the fire was out. The front door was unlocked. I know I locked it. I always check it twice. I packed up that morning. Didn't wait around for night 5. On my way out, I flipped through the guest book one more time. That strange entry, it was gone. The page was blank. I drove 3 hours back to Portland without stopping. Haven't been back since. There's a playground just a block from my apartment. I pass it every day on my walk to work. It's not the nicest park. Cracked pavement, old swings, peeling paint on the jungle gym. But there's always someone there. Kids, parents, joggers, normal stuff. Except for her. The first time I saw the girl in the yellow raincoat, I assumed she was just another kid. It had rained the night before, and she was sitting alone on the merry-go-round, legs crossed, spinning herself slowly with one hand. Her raincoat was bright, a little too bright, almost glowing in the overcast light. She looked maybe 6 or 7. Pale skin, black hair that stuck to her cheeks like it hadn't dried all the way. She never spoke, never smiled, but she was always watching. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I started seeing her every day. Rain or shine, morning or evening, same yellow coat, same silent stare. After a week, I got curious. I waved at her. She waved back with both hands. One of them was holding a worn-out teddy bear, so it was more like a twitch than a real wave. Her face didn't change. No emotion, just stillness. I looked away for a second, but when I looked back, she was gone. No footsteps, no running, just gone. That should have been the end of it. Just a weird encounter. I moved on. But the next morning, when I passed by the playground again, the merry-go-round was spinning. Slow and empty. No kids in sight. Probably just the wind, I thought. I shrugged it off, turned, and kept walking. That night, I had a dream. I was standing in the park, except everything was quieter, muted. The sky was gray. The swings creaked without moving. And in the center of the playground, the girl stood motionless. She pointed at me. When I looked down, my feet were buried in the pavement. I couldn't move. Then I woke up, heart pounding, sheets soaked. Just a dream, I told myself. The next day, I didn't see her, or the next, but I did start noticing something else. Every night, just as I was drifting off, I'd hear something faint, like tiny, wet footsteps. The floorboards creaking ever so slightly outside my bedroom, and always followed by the smell of rain. I tried to tell myself I was imagining it, that the stress of work and the weirdness of the last week had finally gotten to me. Until this morning, I found something on my kitchen floor, a trail of small, wet footprints leading from the front door to my bed, and in the center of my kitchen table was a teddy bear, old, muddy, and missing one eye. I've been a late-night radio DJ for almost a decade. Midnight to 4 a.m. slot. Not the most glamorous, but I liked the quiet, the weird callers, the stillness. You really get to know the night when you live in it. That was before the record arrived. No return address. Just a plain cardboard sleeve with a vinyl inside. No label. No markings. Just one sticky note taped to the front. Play me only once. It was creepy, sure, but I've seen worse. We get strange mail all the time. Homemade mixtapes, unsolicited DMOS, sometimes even conspiracy rants. I figured it was just another midnight nutjob trying to get airtime, but something about it felt heavy. The record itself was ice cold. I had to wipe off what looked like dust, or maybe ash from the grooves. Against my better judgment, I queued it up. It didn't have a melody, not really. Just this low hum, deep and uneven, like the sound a building might make if it were breathing. Every once in a while, there were these high-pitched tones that scraped at your ears, followed by whispers so faint I couldn't understand them. It played for about 3 minutes. Dead air followed. Then my phone lines lit up, all at once. Every single line. People weren't calling to talk. They were screaming, crying. One guy whispered over and over that something was in his house, standing in the corner, grinning. A woman said her husband started bleeding from his nose as soon as the hum began. And now, he was just sitting on the kitchen floor, smiling and not responding to her voice. Another caller simply said, "Why did you let it in?" I ended the show early that night. The next morning, I checked our call log. Every single number was disconnected. Every single one. I tried to forget about it. Threw the record in the trash behind the building. Took a few days off. When I came back to the station, the record was sitting on my chair. No note this time. I burned it. drove out to the woods, poured lighter fluid all over it, and watched it melt into a black puddle. That same night, our system glitched. The record played again. Live. On its own. No one was in the booth. I have security footage to prove it. The next morning, the station received 5 emails. No subject lines. No bodies, just audio files. All 5 were different listeners, recording what they heard during the broadcast. In each clip, there's a new voice. Not mine. Not any known caller. Just this low, gravelly whisper. One more spin, and I'll be free. I don't play records anymore. Now, I sit in silence during my shift, mic off, lights low. But sometimes, through the static in my headset, I still hear it. That hum. I used to think mirrors were just glass, just reflections, harmless. But I don't think that anymore. It started small, so small I thought I imagined it. One morning, half asleep, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, brushing my teeth. And I swear my reflection blinked before I did. It wasn't off by much. Just a split second, but enough to feel wrong. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I was tired. Maybe it was the lighting. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. I didn't tell anyone. I just laughed it off. But then it happened again and again. One night, I stood in front of the mirror, testing it. I raised my left hand. My reflection did the same. I tilted my head, made silly faces, perfectly mirrored. I felt ridiculous for even doubting it. But then I dropped my hand. My reflection didn't. It just stood there, hand raised, eyes locked on mine. No emotion, just staring. I stumbled back so fast, I nearly fell into the sink. And still, the reflection held its pose for one more second before finally matching me again. That was the night I covered every mirror in the apartment. Sheets, towels, anything I could find. I couldn't even look at the black screen of my TV. I avoided store windows. I turned off my webcam. I told myself I was being paranoid. I even booked a therapy session. But before I went, I decided to try one more test. I needed proof. I needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. I set up my phone on the counter, facing the bathroom mirror. Hit record. Left the room. 10 minutes later, I came back, heart pounding. I picked up the phone, hands shaking, and hit play. There I was, walking out of frame. And there it was still standing in the mirror, alone. It smiled. I haven't gone back into the bathroom since. Now I keep the mirrors covered. All of them. But every morning when I wake up, the covers are gone, folded neatly on the floor. And the mirror is fogged over, like something on the other side is breathing, waiting. There's a park in my hometown we used to hang out at when we were teenagers. Pretty average stuff with some trails, a duck pond, a worn-down playground with sun-bleached slides, and chipped paint on the monkey bars. The kind of place parents take their kids in the daytime and teenagers sneak into at night. Behind the main part of the park, there's this big hill covered in trees. No real paths going up it, just overgrown grass and the occasional deer trail. At the base of the hill was this weird concrete wall, half covered in ivy and moss. We always thought it was some kind of maintenance building, but there was no door. Just this round, rusted metal grate set into the wall, like a drainage tunnel. It was welded shut. For years we ignored it. But one night, when I was 17, me and 3 friends, Aaron, Jules, and Mike, decided to check it out for real. Jules had brought a crowbar for reasons that made sense to a bored teenager. And somehow, we actually managed to pry the grate loose. It groaned and snapped free. The air that came out was musty and damp, but under it all was something sharp, like rotting leaves and iron. We all laughed it off, hyping each other up. Mike dared me to go in first. Of course I did. The tunnel was low, so we had to crouch, and it was totally dark. Aaron had a flashlight, but it flickered like the batteries were dying even though they were brand new. The tunnel sloped downward, deeper into the hill than we expected. The walls were lined with old bricks, and the floor was slimy with runoff, and who knows what else. After maybe 50 feet, we came to a curve, and that's when the air changed again. Still cold, but heavier, like it was pressing on our lungs. Then we suddenly heard it. A whisper right behind us. I spun around thinking one of the guys was messing with me, but everyone had heard it. Aaron's flashlight started flickering harder. Then we heard the whisper again. Closer this time. It said my name. Not loud, not clear, just a soft, wet voice that sounded like it was crawling out of the walls. I've never run so fast in my life. We scrambled out, scraping our hands and knees. I didn't even realize I was bleeding until we were back in the grass. We all promised we wouldn't talk about it again. No one went near that hill after that night. But then weird things started happening. Aaron said he heard something in his vents at night. Soft whispering, like water dripping over words. Julie's dog wouldn't go near her anymore. Mike started sleepwalking. His parents found him standing in the backyard, facing the woods, barefoot, muttering to himself. Yesterday, I went back to the park. I don't know why. Maybe it was curiosity, guilt, or that I just wanted to prove to myself that it wasn't real. The grate was back in place, welded shut again, but I swear to you we tore it open. I watched it fall off, but now it looks untouched, like it's been there for decades. I left as fast as I can. I wasn't taking any chances for anything to follow me back home again. I used to jog every evening after work. Just 2 laps around the neighborhood park. Nothing serious, just enough to clear my head. It's a quiet area. Lots of trees, some benches, a sandbox, and swing set in the middle. Not a lot of people at that hour, which was exactly why I liked it. About 2 months ago, I started seeing this kid. He couldn't have been older than 7 or 8, always sitting alone on the edge of the sandbox, just as the sun dipped behind the trees. Never playing, just sitting perfectly still, staring down at the sand. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe his parents were watching from a bench. But I never saw anyone else around, just him. And the way he sat, it wasn't natural. You know how kids act. They fidget, kick their feet, poke around in the dirt, hum to themselves. This kid didn't move at all. It's as if he was like a statue. After the 3rd or 4th time, I started to feel weird about it. I slowed down during my jog, trying not to stare. Something about him just didn't sit right with me. The way he held his head slightly down. How his arms just hung there at his sides. The fact that no matter what time I passed by, whether it was 6:40, 7:10, or closer to sunset, he was always there. Wearing the same clothes, always at the same spot. One night, I decided to say something. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I thought he was lost. Or maybe I just needed to break the silence. So I walked over, slowly, and asked if he was okay or where his parents at. He didn't answer, didn't even look up. So I crouched a little, tried to meet his eyes. And that's when he turned toward me. His face was pale, maybe a little too pale. Messy dark hair, but his eyes, they were pitch black. Not dark brown, just black. No whites, no irises. Just 2 solid, glossy orbs that didn't blink, didn't even seem to move. It hit me like a wave of static. My skin buzzed, my stomach dropped, and for a second, it felt like the park had gone completely silent. No birds, no traffic, not even the wind in the trees. I stood there, frozen. He didn't say anything, just stared. Into my very soul. I don't remember walking away. I just know I was suddenly halfway home, heart pounding like I'd been sprinting. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't stop seeing those eyes. The next evening, I skipped my jog. Same the next day. Eventually, I went back. Curiosity, maybe, or something deeper. But I had to see if he was there. He was. The sandbox was empty. I kept checking for days, but no sign of him. Part of me was relieved. Part of me felt like I'd imagined the whole thing. There's a state park about 30 minutes from where I live. Pretty big, lots of trails. I'd been there plenty of times during the day, but one night, after a rough week at work, I decided to go out after sunset. I figured I'd just stick to one of the shorter trails and get a little peace and quiet. I parked at the lot near the ranger station, which is already closed for the night, and started down a familiar loop trail with my headlamp and flashlight. Everything was normal at first. Cold, quiet still. My boots crunching leaves, the occasional owl hoot, wind in the trees. But about 20 minutes in, I noticed something weird. A side trail I didn't recognize. Now I know that park. I've hiked it dozens of times. I even had a trail map saved on my phone. This little path wasn't on it. No signs, no markings, just a narrow dirt trail winding off into the trees, almost perfectly straight. I stood there for a while, debating. Part of me was screaming, "Don't." But another part is way too curious, maybe. Or just the weird logic of being alone at night was drawn me to it. So I followed it. The moment I stepped off the main trail, something felt heavier. The air changed. Not colder, just thick. Like walking into a room that had been closed for too long. I kept going. After about 10 minutes, the trees opened into a small clearing. And in the center of that clearing was a circle of stones, maybe waist high, arranged in a perfect ring. Some were cracked or leaning, but they all looked deliberately placed, like markers. I walked around the edge of the clearing, not stepping into the ring. I don't know why, but I just didn't want to. My flashlight flickered once, and for a split second, I thought I saw movement behind one of the stones. Just a shadow, nothing solid. But I swear it ducked out of sight the second I turned toward it. Then I heard knocking from below. It was faint, like something hitting wood, but muffled, like it was underground. Knock, 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 pause, then again. I crouched down near one of the stones, aiming the light into the brush. Nothing there, just dirt and roots. The knocking kept going. I took one slow step toward the edge of the circle, and that's when I felt the vibration beneath my feet, barely noticeable, like the earth itself was breathing. That was enough for me. I backed away and turned around. But the trail was gone. I swear, gone. Just trees, no path. Nothing behind me but brush and shadow. Panic started to creep in. I spun in circles, checking every direction. It was like the clearing had swallowed the trail behind me. I pulled out my phone, opened the map, but no signal. Not even offline GPS was working. Just a blinking blue dot floating in the middle of nowhere. Then the knocking stopped, and something whispered my name. Just a soft voice beckoning me to come closer. I ran. I didn't care what direction. I just ran. Eventually, I stumbled onto a familiar trail. No idea how. It was like it appeared out of nowhere. I followed it back to my car, shaking, breath fogging in the cold air. I never went back. A few weeks later, I mentioned the experience to one of the older rangers at a gear shop in town. He got quiet real fast, then asked if I went up there after dark. I nodded. He then said, with a very serious face, "Some trails only show up at night, and some things wait until you notice them." I live in a quiet neighborhood, one of those sleepy, tree-lined suburbs where everyone waves, but no one really knows each other. It's the kind of place where people walk their dogs at 9 p.m. and still feel safe. I've always been a night walker. I work late, and by the time I shut my laptop, my head is buzzing, and I need to clear it. So I walk. Usually just a couple blocks around the neighborhood, earbuds in, hoodie up. hands in my jacket. It's peaceful, Emmett. Was a Thursday night when this happened. It was chilly but clear. I took my usual loop down Maple Street, cut across the park, then back up Birch. I'd walked it 100 times. Never had a reason to feel uneasy until that night. I was halfway through the park path when I realized I could hear footsteps behind me. At first, I thought nothing of it. People walk this route too. Maybe someone just headed the same way. But something felt off. The timing of the steps. They were exactly in sync with mine. When I stopped to tie my shoe, the footsteps stopped. When I started again, so did they. It wasn't just footsteps either. It was the crunch of gravel, the soft shuffle of shoe soles. Too close, like they were 10, maybe 15 feet behind me. I didn't turn around. I don't know why. Maybe because some part of me already knew I wouldn't like what I saw. Instead, I sped up a little, just enough to test it. The steps stayed right behind me. Always the same distance. Always the same rhythm. Not overtaking. Not lagging. Just mimicking. I reached the edge of the park and crossed the street. There's a motion-sensitive street lamp on the corner there that clicks on when someone passes. It turned on when I did, but only one shadow appeared, mine. Still, the footsteps continued. I pulled out my phone and turned on the front-facing camera as discreetly as I could, like I was checking a text. Angled it over my shoulder. There was no one there. Empty sidewalk behind me. Just the quiet hum of the street lamp. I walked the last 2 blocks at a faster pace, trying not to break into a jog. I didn't want to give away that I was scared, even though I was shaking. I didn't want to run. You only run when something's chasing you. I got to my house, unlocked the door quickly, and slammed it behind me. I turned the deadbolt, then the chain, then leaned against the door, breathing hard. After a few minutes, I went to check the doorbell camera footage. I have one of those smart video doorbells that records anyone approaching. I opened the app, scrubbed back to when I got home. I watched myself walk up the driveway, alone. But right as I reached the porch, the camera glitched. Just for half a second. Static. When the video cleared, I was already at the door. And someone was standing right behind me. Tall, unmoving, wearing dark clothes. No details, just a silhouette. And here's the thing. The video didn't show him walking up behind me. One frame I was alone. The next, he was just there, staring at the back of my head. Then gone. I've watched it 100 times. The glitch, the figure, the stillness. Then I realized that he wasn't walking. He never was. This happened in northern Minnesota, near the border. Deep in one of those state forests most people only know from outdated trail maps. That year had been especially dry, so the rangers had carved massive fire breaks through the woods, wide swaths of cleared earth with no trees, just dirt and low brush to stop any flames from spreading. I set up camp just off one of those fire breaks. It was oddly peaceful. No trees overhead meant a clear view of the stars at night, and I could hear anything coming from a mile away. Or so I thought. It was my second night out there when I first heard it. I was sitting by the fire, eating a cold MRE and listening to the night settle in. No crickets, no owls, just the weird silence. That kind of silence that makes your skin crawl because it shouldn't be that quiet. Then I heard branches breaking far off at first, like something big was moving through the woods. Not walking, crashing through it. I froze, a bear maybe, or a moose. But the sound stopped right at the edge of the tree line, maybe 100 yards from me, across the fire break. I shone my flashlight into the dark. Nothing, just a wall of trees and shadows. Then something moved. I couldn't see it clearly, just a tall, narrow silhouette between the trees. Not hunched like a bear, not loping like a deer, just standing close as if watching me. I called out, "Hey, you're close to a camp. Move on." Nothing, it didn't move, didn't make a sound. Eventually, I backed into my tent, zipped it shut, and kept my rifle close. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I found tracks. Not paw prints, but footprints. Bare, long, and thin. Like human feet, but the proportions were all wrong. Too long, too narrow, and deep. Like whatever made them was heavy. They circled my camp. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. I should have packed up right then, but I didn't. I convinced myself it was someone messing with me, a prankster, a squatter, maybe some weird forest dweller who didn't want me there. That night, the silence returned, deeper than before. Even the wind stopped. Around midnight, I heard the breathing. It wasn't mine. It came from outside the tent, slow and ragged, like someone struggling to breathe through frost-bitten lungs. I didn't move, didn't speak, just sat there, holding my rifle, trying not to make a sound. The breathing went on for minutes. Then I heard it sniffing, like it was trying to smell what I was, who I was. I turned on my headlamp and yanked the zipper open, ready to shout. But there was nothing, except across the fire break where the trees began again. I saw it, tall, gaunt, skin stretched tight over bones, antlers branching out from its head like a crown of dead wood. Its eyes reflected the light, not red like an animal. It was white and empty. By the time I blinked, it was gone. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. When the sun rose, I packed up and left. Didn't even finish loading my gear properly. I didn't stop hiking until I reached the ranger station hours later. I told one of the rangers what I saw, hoping he'd laugh. But he didn't. He just said, "You were near the burn breaks." I nodded. He sighed and told me, "People see things up there, especially in the fall, hungry things." I haven't been back since. And sometimes, when the wind's just right, I swear I can still hear it breathing.